Alright, so here we are at 3.4c, the third video for 3.4, and we're talking about slope-intercept, and we're going to show why this is so important to get any line into slope-intercept form, because then we can pull out information about it and then graph from it. So that's what we're going to try and do today, is graph lines from any kind of form of a line. So here is our slope-intercept form again, y equals mx plus b. We're going to try and remember that. It's going to be on our cheat sheet and our study guide, and we're going to remember the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M is the slope. B tells us the y-intercept, because x, when at the y-intercept, x is always 0. And then we just plug in the number b. All right, so we're going to go here, see the stuff that we've seen already, and we're going to say graph some of these things. So here's our instructions. From the slope-intercept form, oops, hang on a second, what is that? Let's see what this does. All right, sorry about that. Windows is a wonderful thing. All right, we can get two, if we put something into the slope-intercept form, we can get two things out of it. Number one, the slope tells us which direction a line goes and can give us direction and gives us another point on the line. Actually, the y-intercept actually gives us another point. Actually, the slope does. Slope gives us another point on the line. So slope can tell us the direction. Slope also gives us another point on the line. And then from those 2 points, we can graph a line. So we start with the y-intercept and then use the slope to get another point. So right now, we've got some information here. We've got a line from this equation right here. It's in slope-intercept form, so I've given it to you. But if we don't have it in slope-intercept form, we should modify it to put it into slope-intercept form, because we've got y equals mx plus b is sure enough our intercept form. So there's 1y equals everything else. All right, 1y equals everything else. It's in slope-intercept form. So our instructions are graph the line using the y-intercept and the slope. All right, well, what do we start with? To start with, I guess we should say, what is our slope? Slope, m, equals that number. If it's solved for y, for 1y, then the number in front of the x is our slope. So our slope is -5. And I'll say, oh, by the way, our slope is really -5 over 1, because that will give us a rise over run. And we can use that rise and run to give us an idea about what our slope is and how we can use that to get to a next point. What's our b? B is actually, plus b is -3, so b is -3. So therefore our y-intercept happens when x equals 0, x equals 0, and y equals -3. So there's our y-intercept. So what do we do to graph it? And again, the instructions say graph the line using the y-intercept and the slope. All right, we'll start with the y-intercept. 0 in the x direction and -1, 2, 3 in the y direction. There's our first line. There's our first y-intercept. And now we're using after we've used that y-intercept, we can say now let's use our slope, because the first thing we use is the y-intercept to graph a line or graph a point. Second, we use our slope to graph a second point. We use the idea of rise over run is the slope. So from this point, this red point, we have to rise -5, which means go down -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, rise is how far up or down we go, and our run is 1. So there's our next point right there. And we can say, you know what, there's my 2 points make a line, but you know what, just for fun, let's go back over here and say my rise over my run could also be 5 over -1, couldn't it? Because 5 over -1 is still -5, and that still is our slope. Our slope is also -5 over 1, and that's still our slope. So we can use our kind of blue slope here, which is still true, because 5 over -1 is -5. We can use that idea of rise over run, starting again from this point, saying my rise now is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And my run is -1. So there's our next point over there as well. And now there's our third point that kind of gives us a double check. And we can say, you know what, now these three lines are collinear, or sorry, these 3 points are collinear. And if I draw with a freehand, which is not such a great freehand, connect all 3 of those points. If we're doing some homework, and doing the test, doing the quiz, I would certainly recommend using a straight edge. In fact, I will tell you, use a straight edge. Just pull out either a ruler or side of a notebook, or maybe a credit card, something like that, to give yourself a good straight edge that gives us, something better than this. It's hard for me to draw on my paper here to give you a good accurate representation of a black line. But in any case, number one, if we've got an equation, oh, and by the way, this was given to us in y equals mx plus b format, the slope-intercept format already, so we could pull out the slope, pull out the b, pull out the y-intercept based on our b, and then start with our y-intercept, graph that point. We're halfway there. And then, from that point, use the slope, definition of the slope, either way as negative 5 over 1 or 5 over negative 1, to get our next green line, or sorry, green point, and get our also next third point to confirm the information that we've got. So those are the 3 steps we should probably do. So already, you know what, I'm going to ask you to graph this line. You guys graph this line and bring it into class and show me that you can graph the line. So I guess the steps we need to do. Number one, is it in y equals mx plus b format? Y equals mx plus b format. It sure is. So after that, find out what our slope m is, find out what our b is, find out what our y-intercept is. Y-intercept happens when, and okay, so then this would be starting with number one, and then your next step would be to use your slope to get another point. So do me a favor, bring that into class and show me that you've done the work, and we can go from there.